Completely Weones by Paola Faure. I dedicate this book to all those who have opened their eyes and want to get out of the cycle. Preface. When we discover that our partner is cheating on us, a whole world falls on us. And many times we cannot observe what really happens around us, until a friendly voice and its patience guides us to get out of the cycle, which is sometimes generational, since your parents and grandparents went through the same thing over and over again. Many times the deceptions are not so much of human thinking, but caused by certain occult works, be they Kabbalistic or others, also called white, black, yellow magic, and endless colors, which for me in the scripture or the Bible, even if it looks harmless, is the same, since the sequels do not change from the works of wizardry. I advise you to follow Jesus Christ, whatever they say. For me he is the only rectifying descendant, who came to liberate all creation from everything adverse to it. I invite you to read this book, which is a compilation of El Club de los Weones and No Serán Weones. Laugh a little with the real experiences that appear, and if it looks like a personal one in your life, I remind you, it is a cycle and how human beings always act very similar. Members of the Weones Club, Completely Weones. Many times without realizing it we naively enter a club or a label. We will call this the Club of the Weones, not for belittling the opposite sex of the one who reads, but that whoever enters this club ends up being naive and thinking that he is fooling everyone and that he will not harm the person who is at his side by side for years, but there are also exceptions that they really don't mind hurting, that they should forgive because they are like that. Unfortunately, Christians, Catholics, Muslims, Freemasons, people of all religions and ethnicities enter or fall into this club. And if you are exoteric, think that superior beings from other galaxies and dimensions also fall. As an old friend said, an office in each district often represents a girlfriend or a lover who will not have contact with the house official, until he accidentally meets two who live on the same block, and 2 passages from hers. A simple look, a naive smile of friendship are sometimes misinterpreted and we fall into the trap of our own fears. We cannot think that a lie will last forever, they constantly leave traces that even a 2-year-old can discover. When you work in the field you tend to meet people, spending a lot of time waiting for clients in the mall and other places where the only entertainment is listening to whoever wants to talk to you. Most of them are people who need to vent about what they did or did to them. Living in an incubator between my church and home, I realized that the real world is made up of people who are like predators, ready to catch their prey, no matter the means. Both Christians and any religion are prone to falling when the emptiness in them is not filled by their partners or by themselves. Alejandra Stamatiz, an Argentine psychologist, explains in her books that we are human beings capable of making mistakes, that we struggle with an internal need for stability, but at the same time we need to do something that takes us out of the routine, that wakes us up with adrenaline, a risk that gives us a new emotion. Marriage counseling books tell us that human beings have different ways of feeling love and receiving it, that we feel overwhelmed and we go into depression when our partners do not show us love as we need to receive it, but as they require it. No one thinks of asking the other how he really feels loved. This creates a void that can be filled by anyone other than our home. That is the time when many must battle with adultery, or as it is currently said, a slip or an extramarital affair. I know of many cases that although they are tempted they do not fall, they look for means of falling in love again or external help. There are also many who were born that way and they like it, there is no change in them, they also do not care to harm the beings they love, only to satisfy their own needs. The cheating partner believes that she is a good strategist, that she conceals, but is always caught by her partner, who chooses to remain silent, turning her gaze, entering this so-called club without knowing it, leaving the cycle or ancestral curse alone. It depends on you. Won't they be Weones? Being a Christian or living a straight life costs these days, especially when external things make everything repel in your life. Will Not Be Weones is a book dedicated to all those who happen strange things and are harassed by people who do not even know. I tell them together with the victims. Won't they be Weones? Years ago I was a serious victim of a techno harassment that caused me the losses of my pregnancies by a group of a poor class family, people of money with contacts at international level with governments and military that could deliver without cost that type of technology. With my luck, a poor group of this family buys the house on the side where I live. And for them I learn of the continuous and non-stop use of that technology against my life since 1998 and 2002 to help them with a spell called the Principle, and those who supported him was a faithful soldier of an Asian government. This work was for a womanizing doctor, who will call him the stupid of the people, to tie me up in a supposed spiritual marriage and have what they call spiritual degrees. If we are consistent and sensible, anyone with biblical knowledge would say that it is pure sorcery, and if it is a Satanist who does not care about any of that, they measure the spiritual degrees, and with people of greater rank, or as they call it spiritual dress, they do not get involved, especially if they don't have it. How I know? Easy, not only use Google, but find out about this matter by sea and land, plus my years of experience as a child in different groups of prayer, liberation, or as they are known elsewhere in exorcism, war spiritual. So even though I am not an expert in the supernatural, I will notice when there is no spiritual legality. To my surprise, they were not the only ones. The grandmother of another neighbor with her granddaughter did the same spell, though, without the blissful machine, since they assured that the guys would have some spiritual degree if they were paid monthly and cut the business and leaving for a while in the city. No one was left with the famous clothes they were talking about. Really, when investigating what was related to the spell of the Principle that bothered me so much every time I went shopping, and why more than one required me to be his slave, or they faced me leaving me crying for a relationship that I did not have, telling me that they were now the main one of Pepito de los Palotes, or the stupid of the people, to deliver my clothes. And other things that for me there was no logic, since I had finished with my ex-partner, so looking for someone was not my priority, escaped all kinds of relationship. I finally found that such a spell or mooring existed, but the main one is the one that carries the spiritual degrees generically. It is the one that lives with the individual, only their children inherit that or those spiritual degrees. The individual can take the degrees, but he loses them when he does not live with her, or does not respect her, but these witches sold the work, omitting the last details. There I understood the reason for the harassment, and I the fool thought it was my physical clothes. He had heard of spells that buried in the desert, in cemeteries, others that threw them into the sea, or into a lake, but of spiritual clothing, not even the Christian church knew about them, since his belief is that God saw all. Now of course I will not put a total reality, out of respect for myself and to those who gave their stories to make this book. With the victims of people like them we unite and say the following: won't they be weones? And from birth, or did the psychotronic machine leave them like this? Since the majority who bought this spell or spell are professionals, such as doctors, engineers, lawyers, risk prevention, etc. Personally I would ask a little more intelligence, don't you think? In my book A Hidden World I presented the topic about the psychotronic machine and its variants of electronic harassment, what they can do in a human being by changing their complete DNA, until changing the sexual orientation of a person. Also the way to fight against it. Mexican journalist Alex Bachman talks a lot about her in his blog, based on excerpts from reports made by him to FBI people, also by books they wrote when they felt very remorseful for what they were doing, and says that the only way is to ask God change the brain frequency of the person. Viactech is an organization created to support those who are victims of techno-harassment, giving guidance through their blog or WhatsApp lines to support the victims, guide them and stabilize them. This machine sends electromagnetic waves to send tortures at a distance. It is what they did with me to lose my babies every time I got pregnant, and other types of torture that are not part of the theme of this book. To my surprise I am not the only one in Chile, and one of the victims created a WhatsApp where we met to support us against this type of distance torture. Starting is a weapon, which they use in ordinary citizens. I wonder where is the law against harassment and torture that the communists boast in Chile, the majority claiming to be theirs. I recall I say to be it, or the people of the UN, since el tnocoso, gang stalking, is a crime that violates the clauses of the Geneva Convention Treaty. I leave the Viactech link for more information on the subject. Also if you like, look for Alex Bachman in YouTube. These can give you a greater type of guidance on the subject. Story 1. Myrna belongs to a hard-working family, and little by little I have a place in what she calls the class, by conquering her boss's husband. He has a daughter with him, but the deception of the cage work he made comes to light by not extending it. He made him believe that he was someone in the spiritual and this could reach world government, but when he saw his daughter he knew that everything was a spell, nothing was true. Well, among sorcerers they understand each other. Story 2. Cassandra has a friend who conquered her partner with a spell made by her sister-in-law, but needs money, so she begins to invent stories of her partner's infidelities to get money. As he knew of the spell of the principal, he convinces her that the woman who carries the degrees does not belong to him, but to him, and must do everything possible so that she, when living with him, has them, but also imposes that he should give her somewhat the principle of your partner has spiritually, to which they made the spell to have hers, all its benefits. That way you get a monthly salary for years. The deception comes to an end when Cassandra's friend, the stupid couple of the town, manages to marry him for the church. He loses the supposed spiritual degrees, discovering that the main spell was the owner of everything spiritual, and being Christian prayed for him, asking God to cover him with his children, but with all the harassment and seeing that his supposed friend was a participant of them, with his new partners, a teacher and another neighbor in the neighborhood, at the school where he worked, he opted for not praying more for him and his sons, especially the eldest, who always heard that his couple of years requested that he disappear from their lives so that he did not share anything with him, since only his children deserved to have the stupid thing of the people and not him, son of another previous relationship. A little sad, but it is the cruel reality of someone who gave me his story, and I found it similar to mine. But the victim is now married to a beautiful girl, and whatever they saw in her, physically she is a beautiful woman, just like her daughter with an angelic charisma. Story 3. I will call the ships we own to this story. There are 3 cousins who practice the so-called eating their victims in the spiritual, but in reality they get high and dad's money is not enough for drugs and give themselves the luxuries they use. With the drug they saw a guy in the house next door and fell in love with him, so they try to prove that they are superior to his neighbor in all areas. But the guy never existed, it was always a product of his imagination and the drug. Since no being under a ship in the tiny yard of its neighbor. Now the victim who was hacked, veiled worldwide, as he can defend himself from people of money that cover the steps of the 3 drug addicts and the ambitious of his cousin. Easy, everything comes to light when the spells that her cousin sells join with those she sold, and her clients claim her with sued and brings everything to light, since she fears lawyers, engineers who bought the spell with her women. I wonder if they are lawyers and doctors, they will not have a little more intelligence to buy such a spell, or find out for another the consequences or conditions that it carries. Of course, with the boomerang law they claim that they are the poor victims, won't they be weones? Story 4. Paula is happy, her Marine husband came home and rented a family movie to share with her children. Her surprise is that the saleswoman presents herself as the bride and future wife of the love of her life. For her it was just a lie. Her husband had made her go through her younger sister with whom she spent all her money on her studies and that of her children. Logically, facing them both is crazy and silly, and her husband's scoundrel made her home saying she will stay with her girlfriend. As I said in the Weones Club, it is your option to get out of the cycle, overcome fear. When they gave me this story, I thought, thankfully, he didn't say he was his employee, that he worked for him. Story 5. There is a group called Los Hybridos. They say they are descendants of the fallen angels and are known for their blood group O, and another group claims to be the same, but that is seen in the spiritual seals of their clothes. Yes, they are rare groups, but if we are observers everywhere, sectarian groups are formed, even in the same Christian churches, with groups of elected by their leaders to meet the sexual needs of their visitors. You really have to read the Bible a little to know that this is not biblical and that you have to flee from that place. Most of these people become familiar with decrees, covenants, and spiritual laws. I met a group in my spell investigation, the main one, and to my surprise they told the story of a family of the indigenous ethnicity that claimed to be part of them. They had astral memories that could possess them in high degrees of that sect, until they made them astral transport. Not even the help of the family of money that I present helped them, since they discovered what they did with the famous psychotronic machines, torturing the real owner of the memories day and night. That's why I say, won't they be weones? If they know the laws of their own spells and what the spiritual world is, or maybe the machine left them that way since they work with the subconscious of the person who is their victim. It is like a family that says that by giving money to the Christian church and great tithes they will have salvation, whatever they do, because with that money they buy not only salvation, but the protection so that nothing is returned to them. Or the others who say that if they send in a spell, they don't return because they didn't do it, they send it done. In my days of belonging to exorcism groups, many people arrived who ordered the famous spells, others who made them, and the law is the same. Only genuine repentance helped them, not trying to deceive the superior deities or sending others to do something so that the return does not come to them. I still remember the sorcerer's sayings. But so you have it, if you do not use it, it is not useful as Christian. Or years before, another witch claiming that she absorbed a certain person day and night to have her own, but nothing happened. Now in my investigations, whether or not it serves the victim, they are genetic things. You can give up a pact or a demon, but not a promise from God in your life or to your ancestors, even if you are a sorcerer, and anyone who enters that area knows that. That's why I say they won't be weones. I hope you enjoyed each of the stories. If you feel identified, there is a way out. You are not alone or alone. For people who have practiced these types of spells, everything returns in one way or another, even if you pay to avoid it. Seeking the truth of it, I found that many people are still deceived in Christian churches that pay for these kinds of spells so that people don't go away. Nor do they teach that all kinds of sorcery are bad. Likewise, the Catholic churches, the Bible curses them in the same laws of Moses. If you are looking for help, I leave you with this simple prayer, but I warn you that you must turn away from all kinds of magic, spells, etc. You must seek God with all your strength and a church that speaks the truth. Sir, now I understand what I was doing is wrong, and I was deceived because I wanted to, and it was my choice to receive money or give it for that. I apologize for my actions and I regret my heart. I renounce all the evil that I have done and think not pleasant to your presence, also to all ancestral deity that I was consecrated, and the consequences of it formally tell the spiritual world that I am not part of his lineage, no more. I renounce all my current life by becoming a new creature, a special design that you created for me. Now I know the real sacrifice that Christ made on the cross of Calvary, which was not there but was resurrected on the third day, making me by his blood consistent with him of your name, of your kingdom. I am your son through his blood, why you bought me through her blood. I accept Christ, with the different names I have in the world, Yeshua, Jesus, etc. in my heart, becoming part of your family. In the sweet name of Jesus. I recommend you, as they did in the book of facts in the Bible, that you burn everything related to sorcery in your home. Read the Bible, look for the truth in it. Be blessed.